it's just really, I don't know, it's so irresponsible. We're starting to see tech come back. Okay, so US market, we're starting to see tech rally. Even though it's still kind of uncertain, people are still kind of cautious about maybe we will be in recession, maybe this, maybe that. Still a lot of FUD out there, right? But overall, tech is starting to come up. Tesla's coming up, Coinbase is coming up, MicroStrategy is coming up, right? A lot of tech companies are starting to come up, even though we've been hearing a lot about layoffs, right? And I believe here's the reason why. Because this upcoming FOMC meeting that's happening in about a week or so, a week and a half, right? Everyone's speculating on how much the Fed fund rate will go up by. And now, according to this estimate, I don't know who's estimating, right? There's a 42% chance that people are guessing that Powell will not even raise rates this time. We went from like a sure 50 basis point rate hike to a dovish 25%. And now we have this consensus. Almost half the people out there think that Powell is going to stop raising rates altogether. That would be awesome, right? Although I don't think so. I think that's too dovish. But there's this sentiment now because we have 3 fantastic CPI readings showing inflation is coming down a big way. Core inflation is coming down. All the economic data is softening, right? So there's this consensus that maybe he's not going to raise the rate at all. And that would send markets screaming higher, right? But the other 57% is thinking it's 25 basis points. So the 50 basis point is out the window now. No one is even thinking that that's a possibility anymore. Interesting. We will get another reading this week, PCE inflation. So we'll see. It should more or less mimic the CPI. But unless something drastically changes with that, I mean, we don't have much time until this next FOMC meeting, which starts February 1st, and then he's going to have a press conference on February 2nd. So there's that. So this probably the reason why tech is starting to come back, and plus on top, everything has been so oversold, right? It makes sense. This could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin is heading higher. Here's another thing, okay? And I'm not trying to, okay, I tend not to get political because I know a lot of people are very, very one side or another, right? But I have to mention this. I've been talking about the debt ceiling, right? And it's just really, I don't know, it's so irresponsible, right? To think that as a nation, we have this debt ceiling because we overspend every single year, and we think it's okay to overspend. And whenever we hit this limit, you could think of it like a credit card limit. Somehow when we hit it, rather than try to solve the problem, what we do is ask to increase the limit. And that's the situation we're in right now. We have hit this debt ceiling that we already up by $2 trillion just a year ago, and we have hit that limit once again. So now there's talks about, let's just get rid of the ceiling altogether. Why do we need to go through this every year, right? When we know that we overspend, so let's just eliminate the ceiling altogether and have endless borrowing and endless spending. Now that's the hot topic. I mean, it's like going to a restaurant, going to a nice fancy restaurant. You sit down, you order food, and when it's time to pay, you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't bring any money with me. Can you just put it on my tab? Most likely they'll say no, but let's say they did. And then you come back again and say, well, I can't afford it. Let's put it on my tab. And let's put it on my tab again. How many times do you think you could do that before they cut you off and they kick you out, right? I mean, we're kind of trying to push the limits here. Let's just eliminate the debt ceiling and just keep accumulating more and more trillions. And let's see what happens. It's kind of like rolling the dice. Let's see how long we get away with it. It's utterly ridiculous. And why I mentioned this is because this is why Bitcoin was created. When Satoshi created Bitcoin in 2009, it wasn't like this. Not nearly this bad. After we had to bail out the banks, right? Satoshi, whoever he or she or group, said, no, we don't want to trust the Federal Reserve anymore. We don't want it to be dependent on the central banks around the world. They don't know what they're doing. They could just bail insolvent banks. They could bail out anyone they want at any time, right? Why would we want to trust a system like that? And now you fast forward 13 years later, we're talking about just endless printing now. Endless borrowing, endless printing. Like, just think about it for a second, right? This is how bad it's become. And somehow it's the norm. Somehow it's just like, okay, why not? Why not? We could get away with it. Why don't we just do it, right? Another reason why we all need to be in Bitcoin. Something that can't be artificially inflated, something that has a set supply, right? And you can't just keep IOUing, right? Keep borrowing money and printing more money until it inflates to nothing,